Hi my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Amy and I'm a cruelty-free makeup enthusiast and blogger. Thank you so much for joining me today. I had been watching a video from 90s Love Child, who I absolutely adore on the platform. She is so funny. She's got such a great personality. She's definitely one of my favorites here on YouTube, and she was talking about brands that really kind of interest her, that excite her, and I wanted to kind of expand upon that because I had some thoughts of my own. Immediately, I thought of some brands that kind of popped into my head that always just kind of interest me. They don't necessarily put out a ton of product. They're not doing a lot of releases, and they may not be like more mainstream-ish brands, but I wanted to talk about them because there's something about them that just intrigue me. So the first brand that I want to talk about is Nomad Cosmetics. Now, Nomad is actually inspired by places and travel. So for example, they will take a place such as Tokyo, and they will get inspired by all the colors there, the themes there, what's very popular in pop culture, and they will curate all these colors that can be found in that place, and then they create a palette that has a whole theme, and I just love them so much. I think it's just such a unique concept for a makeup brand. They're not always pumping out product. Really what they're mostly known for is their eyeshadows. I really do enjoy their eyeshadows. I was first introduced to them when I tried out their Antilles palette, and then I went and got their Marrakesh palette, and then their Harajuku Tokyo palette, and the Marrakesh one is just gorgeous. It's inspired by all these really beautiful spice markets. So yeah, I have to say that that is a brand that continues to put out product that I'm really interested in. They've recently released a palette that is actually, I think it's, I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Cartagena? But yeah, I really want to try that one out. It looks very like spicy and bright and almost neon kind of colors. So I think it looks absolutely adorable. So anytime they kind of put out a release, I'm really just kind of paying attention and seeing what's going on. Another brand that's always interested me that I actually don't have a lot of products from is Besame. Now, Besame Cosmetics was created by Gabrielle Hernandez, and she is pretty much a makeup historian. She loves all things vintage. So what she does is she bases all this makeup off of historical makeup. So colors that were really popular from like 1910, 1920, 1930. She recreates these formulas and gets these colors that were really popular during that time. So one of the things that really always catches my eye about the brand is some of their Disney collections. They definitely did a Sleeping Beauty one, and it was just the coolest thing because the palette that they did, she went into the Disney archives and then used the actual color palette that was used in the Disney film and recreated that and put it in a palette. So it's just all these really beautiful details and this attention to historical accuracy. And as someone who was a history major and has a history degree, I just find that so cool and fascinating. So I hope I can get more products from Besame in the future. It's just something I've always had an eye on, and then I never end up getting stuff from them. But I do think they're really, really interesting. The other brand that I want to talk about is Shroud Cosmetics. They used to be known as Strobe Cosmetics. I'm not exactly sure why they rebranded to Shroud, but it's kind of cool. I love their whole aesthetic. They have really beautiful eyeshadow palettes, which is something that they're really known for. The Creepy Cute is a really OG pastel palette that people love. I love having it in my collection. And it's another brand that doesn't put out a lot of products, but when they do, there's always just something very unique about their color story. Most recently, they actually just announced a collaboration with Beauty Bean, who I love. Her name is Betty Jean. She's the cutest. You have to check out her YouTube channel. She's very, very talented. And they just came out with a Halloween palette. And I love the colors that are included in this because it's just very like grungy, very green, and all these interesting shades that I think is very her, but like I also really fit into that aesthetic as well. I really like those kinds of colors. So I hope I can get my hands on that new palette because it looks just so delightful. Another brand I want to talk about is Melt Cosmetics, because Melt, no matter what they put out, I am always interested in it. I don't always go and pick it up, but my eye is definitely on it because I think they have such really beautiful, unique color stories. I think they curate colors very well, and so I have a bunch of their eyeshadow palettes which I think are really good. So I think they're just a really creative brand. The Gemini palette, of course, the Morte palette is like one of, oh my god, that color story in the Morte palette is so beautiful. I'm so happy I have it in my collection. The most recent Rust palette, Rustic? No, it's the Rust palette, is so gorgeous. If you want more of a user-friendly palette with Melt's formula, I would definitely say Rust is like the one to go for. Now, I've only tried one highlighter from them, and that was the Illumination one. I wasn't too crazy about that highlighter, but the concept of it with the sugar skull that was kind of imprinted on it, it's just so cool. Like I've never seen a brand that's gone from kind of indie to mainstream that they're now in Sephora just continue to put out these really interesting kind of thought-provoking collections. So whenever they put something out, I'm definitely watching. Black Moon Cosmetics, I love their liquid lipsticks so much. I remember when I first started getting them, and then I bought a ton of them because I'm like, I have to have the whole set. I just love their liquid lipstick formula. I think they're very creamy and they're comfortable. They aren't transfer proof, but I like that about them because they're a little bit more creamy and moisturizing. They also have really good highlighters. I am so angry at myself that for like years ago I decluttered their highlighters. I don't know why. I was trying to like have a smaller collection, and then I realized I wasn't a minimalist and that wasn't for me. So hopefully one day I could get my hands on their bioluminescent inspired highlighters, because those are just really interesting, beautiful. They look great on all different kinds of skin tone. For their liquid lipsticks, I highly recommend picking up their Autumn Trio, especially during this time of year. They have these really beautiful like cider shades, and there's a little bit more of like a burnt red orange, and then there's also another one that's kind of an olivey green, and they're just kind of grungy and fall. Again, it's a company that doesn't release a lot of product, but it's just something I always have my eye on because I just think they're a really interesting brand. One of the bigger brands that I'm going to talk about is Colourpop. So Colourpop is by all means not small anymore. I know they get a lot of flack. They call them the fast fashion of makeup brands, which I definitely don't think they are. They do produce way too much product, but everything is kind of made to order. So instead of having all this like what fast fashion would be, which is kind of toxic for the environment, they do make to order. Once they sell out, they make everything in-house, they package everything in-house, and they send out from the same exact location. So you don't have all these kind of shipping back and forth. They make everything, including the lab and the shipping, in the same facility. Once something gets sold out, it really is sold out, and then they make as much as they need to kind of replenish their stock. And they come out with way too much stuff. But all that being said, they just make some really wonderful products that I love, including their eyeshadow palettes, of course, but there's a lot of face products that I like, from highlighters to blushes. I love their eyebrow pencil, their eyebrow gel, and I know that they have so much skincare stuff. I really love the Fourthray Beauty, which is their sister brand. I love using their face milks as primers. I'm actually wearing the Tumeric one today. And then they have the Soul Body, which has like the giant highlighters that are beautiful. They're kind of way too big for my liking, but they're still really beautiful. So I just think that they're still coming out with a lot of interesting things. Now that they release too many things, I feel like what could have been enjoyed, and then, you know, people had a couple months to at least enjoy before a new release came out. It's just like one thing after the other. So I feel like a release comes out, people grab it, they don't even get the chance to enjoy it, and a new release comes out shortly after. I feel like it's once a week at this point, but still they put out some palettes that really intrigue me. Their monochromatic palettes especially are really beautiful, but then there's some of the more curated ones. Good Sport, that came out I think 2 to 3 years ago now for fall. That color story was just so unique and beautiful. It's still one of my absolute favorite palettes. I probably will hold on to it until the day I die. They do still create these really beautiful color stories. Unfortunately, it just kind of gets lost in the shuffle sometimes due to the frequency that they release product. The next brand I have to talk about is more of a mid-sized brand. I think they just make really good, solid products, again, without oversaturating things with releases, and that's Dose of Colors. They just have really lovely liquid lipsticks. They're not the most comfortable formula, but there's such a vast array of shades that you can choose from. I love their foundation and concealer. Their makeup blending sponge is actually my favorite makeup sponge. They also have really good highlighters and, of course, their eyeshadows. Now, I know their older eyeshadows were a little bit kind of strange. I think, was it the Treasure palette from years ago, something where it was just, oh my god, it drove me nuts the way that like the pans were all turned around. But that being said, they don't really release palettes like that anymore. Most of the time now, they're kind of monochromatic 5 pan palettes that are really user-friendly that I think are just great. They have a really wonderful blendable formula to them, and they always continue to have really high quality products. So to see a brand kind of remain consistent with their releases is why I love Dose so much. Nabla puts out really good products. Their eyeshadows, I love their palettes so much. You guys, I know that they're putting out a little bit more, and now that they're selling at Ulta too, I think they're a lot more easily accessible to people. If you can get your hands on the Dreamy 2 palette, that palette, the kind of like metallic-y, almost glittery, but really buttery shade is just so mouth-watering. I really love their skin glazing formula too, which comes in a variety of shades. They can be used as blush and or highlighter, however you want to use them. Those are so good as well. So Nabla's awesome. I make a purchase from them like once a year. I go on during the kind of Black Friday online sale, and my friend Lauren and I make a purchase together. So I'm really looking forward to making a purchase on their site this holiday season, especially for some of these smaller, more curated palettes that they've recently come out with. There's a berry one that just looks so good and beautiful, and it's calling my name. Let's talk about Menagerie. So Menagerie is so cute. They used to be called Makeup Monsters, but they rebranded a little over a year ago. They were really known for their liquid lipsticks, but now they've come out with concealers and face powders, and they have really cute eyeshadow palettes too. And I am such a sucker for really cute animal packaging. So they have, you know, like the pastel pup, and then they have the killer purr, and then with singles you could have a little foxy palette, and then of course there's the feral palette with like the little wolfie that has the little antlers on it, and it's just so cute. I just think that they're really beautiful and very underrated. I feel like more people need to be talking about Menagerie because, again, really pigmented, buttery shades. I love when I pull out these palettes. They just bring me so much joy, and I'm always interested, like, what's the next thing they're going to put out? What's the cute little creature that they're going to use as inspiration for their next palette? We have to talk about Glamlight. So Glamlight is a brand that I've kind of recently got into. I remember last year I was talking about things I was so happy I never bought. I'm like, I don't want food palettes, like burger palettes, pizza palettes, whatever. And most of those were kind of from Glamlight, the brand. And it's so funny. Once I learned a lot more about Glamlight, I then appreciate the kind of concept and aesthetic, also the excellent formulas that this brand has. Recently, I got into their cake palette, which is actually something that I'm wearing today. I bought this earlier this year, and I'm like, oh my god, it comes in like a little oven. Like, the packaging looks like a little easy bake oven. You open it up, the little cake comes out. So I'm a big fan of their kind of more sweet inspired palettes. I think the colors are so dreamy, but the formulas on these guys is just amazing. So from their lip products too are really good. There's some really beautiful lip glosses that are all based around desserts. So their lip products are really beautiful too. They have great lip glosses, and they're inspired by tasty treats. So hot chocolate, caramel frappe, those kind of things. But I have to say that the more stuff that they're putting out quite recently has really caught my attention. So they had a donut palette that came out that looked really beautiful. They have a new ice cream truck one that looks great too. So there's just something really interesting about the color stories in these palettes. I think that's what makes it really unique, plus the awesome formula. So I highly recommend checking out this brand. The second to last brand that I want to talk about is Lunatic Cosmetic Labs, and they do not put out a lot of product. I actually wish that they put out more. I feel like they only put out like something once or twice a year, and I'm like wanting more from them so desperately. I love the concept of the brand. It's like this kind of like dead girl vibe type kind of thing that they have, and it's also like slightly B-movie inspiration, and it's so much fun. Their contour palette, if you only need one contour palette, definitely go with Lunatic Cosmetic Labs. They have two different kinds, one for a little bit more lighter skin tones and one for deeper skin tones, and it's just so versatile and worth it. If they have a sale, definitely go pick it up. But they have really interesting lip products. They have a great mattifying powder that's still one of my favorite pressed powders, and they were kind of like the first brand to do like the ammunition, like the bullet-shaped lipsticks before Jeffree Star kind of stole those. But yeah, the lip ammos you can get from Lunatic Cosmetic Labs. So hopefully they come out with something new, but I just think they're a very interesting brand. Whenever they put out a new release, I will definitely be hopping on it. The last brand that I wanted to talk about is a major brand, and it's e.l.f. I just love e.l.f. for its accessibility. You can find it everywhere. It's completely vegan, like most of the brands that I've actually brought up today. And I just think they have everything you need at an affordable price. They stay on trend with a lot of things, and they put out really cute products. So I don't always buy from them, but I just think there's some really good hits that you can find within the brand, particularly those bite-sized eyeshadow palettes I'm in love with. They have these new cream lipsticks that are really good, and I think they're only just a couple of dollars. So it's just a really great brand that you can find pretty much anything, and if you want a certain kind of color story, you're going to be able to find it at e.l.f. at an affordable price. Oh, I have one more brand that I want to talk about, and that is Lunar Beauty. So 90s Love Child actually brought up this brand as well, and I could not agree more because this brand interests me. This is an influencer brand that was created by Manny MUA, and there's just something though about the aesthetic of his brand that is so well thought out, so perfectly curated to what he wants, and the products that I have tried are so good. His lip gloss formula is great, his highlighters are great, his eyeshadow palettes are great. I wish I had more stuff from the brand, and he's not putting out tons of collections. There's about maybe like one collection here, one collection there. There's a blush palette that he recently made that looks really, really beautiful. And all of it is in this kind of celestial, lunar type inspiration that's very him. I know he has them like tattooed on him as well. It's just a very well thought out brand that has really, really good products to it. So of all the influencer brands, like Manny's is that one that I think just is really, really unique and special. Alrighty, my lovelies, so those are the brands that interest me. I know that this list could probably change for me depending on weather, mood, and year. I'm sure that if I were to do this again 6 months from now, they would probably change, but I wanted to share my thoughts with you. So again, thank you to 90s Love Child for doing this kind of video and inspiring me to make this one. What is on your list of your brands that interest you? Comment down below. And if you made it this far, please comment down a little peach emoji in the comments because you are sweet as a peach. And until next time, my friends, remember to stay compassionate and chic. Bye!